The back half of 2021, as we were emerging from COVID, not only were the old clients coming back, but we did get a new client in the trade show management space. They started sending us the bulk of their business during that time. And what was really sort of a rounding error from them, given that their size and capacity, was a huge volume for us. Most of that volume was in rigid substrates, and there was also a lot of 10-foot band. So we'd only had an 8-foot hybrid at the time. It was slow. It could only push through about 8 boards an hour. And we found ourselves outsourcing just far too great a portion of the business for it to be profitable. We've always done a pretty good job of researching machines. We've tried to stay up on whatever the latest technology was. And previous to COVID, we already knew that the machine that we had was probably not going to take us to the next level. So we certainly put 2 to 3 years of researching flatbeds and had an idea of where we might go as our next step. Not only was our former flatbed slow, but it really produced mediocre, subpar quality prints. And it just wasn't going to get us to where we're going to go. And the manufacturer was taking that out of the lineup, and they weren't going to be supporting it. Among the considerations we needed to ponder was our very small physical footprint. We only have 3,500 square feet, and we also have some power limitations. So looking for a printer that didn't require us to invest, $35,000 in capital in a leaf space for another 3-phase 240 outlet was a high priority. Of course, our focus, just given our small footprint, was the greatest production capacity per square foot. We had our minds open to just about anything in the marketplace. Although we quickly dismissed the HP R2000, the latex series, we thought that that was too slow, and we simply couldn't wrap our hands around the idea of printing latex on substrates, since there is a good portion of that goes outdoors and, issues with material because of the heat. We wrestled with the idea of a traditional flatbed. We looked at the Vanguard, the Fluid Color, and the Canon. Each of those offer great quality print and a substantial increase in speed. And as we already did have a Canon in place, we had a relationship, and that was familiar. However, the idea of sacrificing banner production, because we were getting a lot of 8-foot banner already and 10-foot banner, having to sacrifice that and only be limited to what we could produce on our roll-to-roll, which was 64 inches, it just simply didn't make sense. It was too limited. That really left us with the AGFA and the soon-to-be introduced EFI Pro 30. On paper, the EFI basically checked all the boxes, as it had a single 3-phase power requirement, and the speed was more in line of the much faster flatbed. Quite honestly, it was at an extremely competitive price, and it was in line. The package overall was terrific. The EFI's print quality was absolutely outstanding, and the white ink, I would tell you, is unparalleled. Given that we had been working with LexJet as a material vendor and enjoyed that partnership for several years, they were also the first to introduce us to the Pro 30H. So it was really quite an easy decision to choose LexJet as the vendor, as the one who was going to provide it. And, the EFI, again, checked off all the boxes plus. So again, quick, easy decision. We spoke to LexJet several times leading up to our commitment, although the process moved relatively fast for a large purchase. And a large purchase is obviously relative to our size business. This was a big investment for us. The focus of our conversation was always centered on ROI. Again, as a substantial investment for us and a paradigm change in technology and speed and personnel, there were a lot of things that we needed to consider. And we were really trying to cram a very big machine into a very small space. So we had just the fiscal concerns about it. We dug deep into evaluating previous year's output, our business trajectory, and what our projections looked like going forward on a financial basis. It was important that we didn't make the purchase for the sole purpose of supporting this one large client. We needed to understand, perhaps justify the purchase as the next logical step in our overall growth plan. That should we lose this client, was it still a wise move? Lex just helped us not only define the metrics, but reviewing the hard data and creating intelligent assumptions that we had comfort in going forward with it. This part is probably relatively subjective. We certainly did see a noticeable difference in man-hour reduction, where the team would often be working 12 to 16-hour days and nearly every weekend. Once the EFI was online, the team began getting their life back and started to resume a more sustainable schedule, which is important because morale, and certainly during this time period with personnel, that's a very frightening sort of situation to be in, where you begin to lose morale and people begin to move because it's been incredibly hard to hire. And I would say that was actually one of the considerations also in the decision, is why we wanted a fast printer. In many cases, due to time constraints, the point of inflection in deciding what to print and what to outsource was so low that if we got hit with a job that might have been 50 boards with a day turn time, we'd be outsourcing a job or completely passing on it. Once the EFI was on board, we could take jobs and have it done in a matter of hours between printing, cutting, and packaging. So there's virtually nothing we say no to anymore. The first half of 2022, before the EFI went live, we outsourced 27.2% of our production. I mean, it's just huge. In the back half after that, and this is where it's just crazy, is the back half of 2022, we only outsourced 6.1, and nearly all of that was data sublimation, which we don't have on board anyway. So what happened, this resulted in basically a 20% upswing in our net margin in just those 6 months. Absolute paradigm change. And then some background is we enjoyed a 72% revenue growth in 2022 over our best year ever, which happened to be 2021. We ranked number 11 nationally in the franchise amongst 125 studios. And we also were nominated for the International Franchise Association's Franchisee of the Year for 2022. The increased output, the faster throughput, the turn times, the significantly improved quality of our work was just markedly improved. Without question, this would have been impossible without the Pro 30-inch. I mean, it was an absolute game changer. The most amazing is that our production team insists that we have significantly more printing capacity in the tank and eager to take on additional jobs. LexJet has been incredibly responsive to all of our questions and finding resolutions to all the issues that have arisen. We've had techs on site to train, as well as work through the occasional bug that might pop its head, and is commonplace with any new technology, and which we expected and we anticipated. We've been very fortunate to have LexJet by our side. Us being amongst the first in the United States to take delivery of the Pro 30-inch. There isn't a large forum for us to draw guidance from, and they completely fill the gap, which might typically be served by peers.